Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, manga, indie horror and disturbing books. It's my weekly wrap-up. So, two things quickly before we start. So, firstly, as a British citizen, I should, of course, reflect on the fact that it's the coronation of King Charles III today. So, we have, of course, been sent an official portrait of the King. So, all British households have to display a picture of the reigning monarch. In our house, it's actually in my office, so it's just up there behind the camera. So later on today, I'll be taking down the picture of Queen Elizabeth II, taking the photo out and using the frame for this picture of Charles III. So sad to see Queen Elizabeth go into the bin, but such is life. We move on with a new monarch. And this lovely official portrait of the King, which has been issued to all British households by the government, will be going up on the office wall later on today. The other thing I wanted to reflect on was a kind of new approach to things. So now I've finished the 100 book challenge. I've been thinking about how I track my reading and things like that. And what I've decided to do in these weekly videos is report on books in and books out. So books in, very simply, being new books that I've received either digitally or what's the other word? What's the other way you receive books? Or physically. And also books out. So books out being books I have read, or potentially books I've DNF'd that I'm really confident I'm not going to go back to. So my stats for this week then, and my aim is that those two numbers will be pretty equal, with hopefully books out exceeding books in every week. So this is the first week where I'm reporting on that, and I'm already in deficit. So 7 books out this week. So 7 books I will talk about today in this wrap up video. 8 books in. But only 2 of those were books I purchased myself. So 2 books I bought, but also 2 gifts and 4 books that have been sent to me for review, either by the author or by the publisher. So whilst I am in deficit, I don't feel too bad about it, because in terms of books I've actually bought myself, I'm 5 books ahead, if that makes sense. Right, so let's talk about the books I've read then. So, sorry, I just need to move King Charles. Put him over there. So first thing to talk about is Berserk. So I read volumes 2 and 3 of Berserk from this deluxe edition. So I talked in my manga vlog that went up last Sunday about Berserk and how I hadn't been overly impressed with the first volume. People did say to me to stick with it because it gets better, and indeed it did. I liked the second volume better than the first, and I liked the third volume even more than that. So I thought the third volume of this, and particularly the kind of final part of that, was really, really good. So I'm looking forward to reading more of this. And if you've watched my book haul video that went up yesterday, I've got the next 2 of these deluxe editions ready to read. Other things I've read then. So as I said in my Horror Mayhem video, I'm going to try and read a lot of stuff by kind of small press and independently published authors this month. So I've got a few things like that to talk about. So I read this one, Out on a Limb by Louis Paredes, which is a novella. I thought it was horror, and it's not really. It's more kind of dark fantasy, urban fantasy kind of thing, but really interesting. I had a really good time with it. So basically, something has happened in the world that's given people magical powers, and there are like strange magical creatures and stuff like that. But essentially, this is a detective story focusing on two people who are investigating a crime. Well, one of whom is human, and one of whom is kind of like a rabbit. So it was really entertaining and quite cute, but just well written, well constructed, decent mystery at the heart of it. I had a really good time with it. Completely different. So I read Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison, which is a fantastically disturbing book. So it is, an indie horror book, albeit extreme horror in this case, and it definitely deserves the badge of extreme horror because it was very graphic at times and completely horrific. Some of the things that are described in this book are things you would think that you would never want to read about, but the book did a good job of presenting them in a way that was compelling to read and interesting to read. So I am going to do a review of this, I think, as part of my Disturbing Books project. But yeah, I liked it more than I expected to. I've heard very mixed things about it. Some people seem to really love it. Some people really, really, really intensely dislike it because of how graphic and horrible it is. But I thought it was decent. So yeah, review of that one coming soon. Also read another kind of indie horror book, this one being one that I got in the Abominable Book Club subscription box a while ago. So Psychic Teenage Bloodbath by Carl John Lee. So a fun read. So definitely very graphic and violent, but not disturbing in the same way that Dead Inside is. More of a kind of fun horror thrill ride kind of a book. So about a kind of teenage lesbian couple. One of them gets injured by like bullies at school and ends up in a coma, but then from within her coma becomes psychic and manages to kind of enact her revenge on the townspeople who have wronged her. It just gets crazier and crazier as it goes on, this book. Towards the end, the level of like the body count and the description of the violence, the amount of gore were just off the charts. So it was definitely an enjoyable read. No great depth here, but nice to see some kind of lesbian representation, which I thought was reasonably well done. And it is a fun horror book. Very much got a kind of 80s like horror movie vibe to it. So I enjoyed that. Other things I've read then, another indie horror book, Engelstat by Samuel Church, which was a book the author sent me. So this was another entertaining horror novel. I'd probably call it more of like a horror thriller than kind of pure horror. So about a group of young people who are at like a kind of film school in the States, who go to Germany, who get one of their party persuades them to go to Germany, to this weird town called Engelstat, and they get wrapped up with all sorts of strange going on with kind of neo-Nazis and things like that. And it's got a bit of a kind of Hostel vibe to it if you've seen that movie, but with more of a kind of thriller bent. So yeah, I had a great time with it. It's really interestingly written, some interesting techniques used to the writing, good characterization, and really, really gripping. So again, I'm going to try and do a review of that one, which will go up on the channel at some point in the next few weeks, hopefully. And then the other thing I read, which may surprise some people, was a Colleen Hoover book, Reminders of Him. So I'd been attracted to the idea of reading a Colleen Hoover book for a while, just because she's so fantastically popular. If you've not heard of her, she's kind of a writer of kind of romantic thrillers, I suppose you call them. Some of her work I think is more just pure romance, but some romantic thrillers as well. So this was a book about a young woman whose boyfriend has died. So boyfriend died in a car crash that she was involved in. She's been imprisoned as a result of that, so was imprisoned for his manslaughter, but was actually pregnant at the time of the crash, which she didn't realise. Has subsequently had a daughter who's been taken away from her, and it's about her now that she's come out of prison, trying to get back in touch with her daughter and kind of rebuild her life, but also with a very strong romance element to it. I had a really, really good time with this book. I'm going to do a review of it. There was just something about it it's kind of light and fluffy. The writing is very over the top at times, but in a really entertaining way. It's very silly, it's quite cheesy, but I really, really enjoyed it. And in terms of what I'm currently reading, so I've just started this, The Cement Garden by Ian McEwan. So a fairly short book, but one with a big reputation for A, being very good, and B, being very disturbing. Within the first chapter, it is very disturbing. It switches from something very everyday to something very unsettling very, very quickly. So I'm expecting it to live up to its reputation of being disturbing. So yeah, enjoying that so far. And then I think in terms of my next read, that will probably be Jade Air by Charlotte Bronte, which I'm doing a buddy read of with Jennifer, one of my patrons. So yeah, looking forward to reading this. A lot of people, so I included this in my May TBR video, and a lot of people commented that it's kind of got horror elements to it, which I wasn't aware of at all. So looking forward to diving into this and seeing what it's like. And then in terms of channel stuff, so over the last week or so, you've had a book haul video, a couple of reviews. So I did a review of the book Sworn to Silence by Linda Castillo, which is a thriller I really enjoyed. I also did a review of 3 books by trans authors, which unsurprisingly, but still disappointingly, a lot of people seem to have reacted quite negatively to. So within minutes of that video going up, I was losing subscribers. I think I've lost about 30 subscribers as a result of that video, which is not a problem. I don't mind losing subscribers. I do find it a bit strange that people have such a instant negative reaction to any discussion of transgender people. My review was somebody accused me in the comments of being an activist. I don't consider my review to have been activism at all. It was me talking about 3 books that happen to have been written by trans authors and my reaction to those books, in the same way as I talk about all sorts of different books on the channel. But anyway, let's move on from that. So I've also done my April wrap-up video where I talk about the 30 books that I read in April, my May TBR video, and a vlog video where I talk about the first volume of 10 manga series which I read, which I had a really good time doing. I really enjoyed that. In the week ahead, I haven't got my week ahead fully planned out yet, but I think I'm going to do another video talking about manga and talking about how I'm going to try and weave manga into my normal reading routine. And I will also probably do a video this week about 10 books that I didn't give 5 stars to, that with the benefit of hindsight, I feel like I should have given 5 stars to. So that's kind of an idea I've been tossing around for a while. And then I think I'm going to kind of break with tradition this week. I normally only do 2 reviews a week. I think I might do 4 reviews this week because I've got a real backlog of books I want to review and talk about. So I think it's going to be a review heavy week this week, with a focus on kind of small press and independently published stuff. So look out for lots of reviews this week, particularly of kind of horror and crime type stuff. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about. Let me know what you've been reading this week. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.